The only thing colder than my wife's heart that morning was the kitchen tile beneath my bare feet as she waved that check in my face. $12 million. And apparently, that bought her a new personality and a ticket to kick me out. "Eli, we need to talk," Vanessa said, her voice carrying that fake sweetness she used when she wanted something. The lottery check sat on our kitchen counter like a loaded weapon. "I'm Eli Turner, 34, systems technician for the city's water department. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. At least, it used to matter when we had bills together." "About what, Vanessa?" I asked, though the suitcases by the front door already told the story. She smoothed her blonde hair, freshly styled, I noticed. "This changes everything between us. I think it's better if you moved out for a while." "A while?" I laughed, but nothing was funny. "You win 12 million, and suddenly I'm the problem? Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Her mother Rhonda emerged from the living room, like a vulture sensing carrion. At 55, she had perfected the art of looking down on people. "Vanessa deserves better than this cramped little house and your situation." "My situation?" "Right. Being married to her daughter, apparently." Vanessa's sister Gina bounced in behind their mother, phone already recording. At 29, she treated life like one big social media opportunity. "Oh my gosh, this is so awkward," she giggled, not lowering the phone. "But like, totally necessary for your growth, Eli." "Turn that thing off," I snapped. "Free country," Gina shrugged. "Besides, this is going straight to our family group chat. Everyone's been wondering how you'd take the news." The news, as if my wife winning the lottery was something that happened to everyone else except me. "Vanessa," I tried again, focusing on my wife. "We bought that ticket together, with money from our joint account." "Actually," a new voice cut in. Chad Royce strutted through my front door like he owned the place. 37, personal trainer, and apparently my wife's new best friend. His gym-sculpted frame filled out his designer polo shirt perfectly. The ticket was purchased with funds from Vanessa's individual account. I helped her check. "You helped her check?" The pieces clicked together. "How long has this been going on?" "Nothing's going on," Vanessa said quickly. "Chad's just been helping me understand my options." "Your options?" I looked around the room, at my wife, her family, and this stranger who seemed awfully comfortable in my house. "And those options don't include your husband?" Rhonda stepped forward. "Eli, be reasonable. Vanessa is about to become a very wealthy woman. She needs to think about her future." "I thought I was her future." "That was before," Gina said, still filming. "Now she can afford to upgrade." The words hit like a slap. I stared at Vanessa, waiting for her to defend me, to tell her sister to shut up, to act like the woman I married 3 years ago. Instead, she looked at the floor. "I've already talked to Shelley. She says I have every right to ask you to leave." Shelley, Vanessa's lawyer friend from college, 40 years old, ice cold, and about as friendly as a tax audit. "So you've been planning this," I said. "All of you." "We've been looking out for Vanessa's interests," Chad said. "Nothing personal. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Nothing personal." The man was standing in my kitchen, talking about my marriage, and it was nothing personal. "Here's what's going to happen," Rhonda announced. "You're going to pack your things, find somewhere else to stay, and let Vanessa figure out what she wants without pressure." "Pressure? I'm her husband." "You're her soon-to-be ex-husband," Gina corrected, zooming in on my face with her phone. "And honestly, you look like a kicked puppy right now. It's kind of sad." I wanted to grab that phone and throw it across the room. Instead, I looked at Vanessa one more time. "Is this really what you want?" She finally met my eyes. "I think it's for the best." For the best. 3 years of marriage, dismissed with a cliché. "Fine," I said. "I'll pack." "Smart choice." Chad nodded approvingly. This doesn't have to get ugly. Oh, but it was going to get ugly. He just didn't know it yet. I spent the next hour throwing clothes into garbage bags while the family conference continued downstairs. Through the thin walls, I heard them planning Vanessa's new life. A condo downtown, a new car, a vacation to Europe. What about the house? Gina asked. We'll sell it, Vanessa replied. Buy something better. Something better. Our first home together, where we'd planned to raise kids someday, was just another asset to liquidate. I loaded my truck with everything that mattered. Clothes, tools, my computer, and a few photos from back when Vanessa used to smile at me instead of through me. You forgot this, Chad said, appearing beside my truck. He held out a framed photo of our wedding day. Keep it, I said. Looks like you'll be needing it more than me. He laughed. Come on, man. Don't be bitter. Vanessa's doing you a favor. Now you can find someone more suitable. Suitable. Like I was a shirt that didn't fit right. Where are you going to stay? Vanessa appeared on the porch. For just a moment, she looked like the woman I married. Uncertain, maybe even guilty. I'll figure it out. Eli, Save it. I slammed the truck door. Enjoy your money. I drove to the Riverside Apartments, the kind of place where dreams went to rot. The manager, a tired-looking woman named Betty, showed me a studio that smelled like cigarettes and disappointment. First month, last month, and deposit, she said. Cash only. I counted out the bills, most of my savings. What about references? Honey, if you can pay, you can stay. We're not picky here. My new home. 400 square feet of stained carpet and broken promises. That night, I sat on a mattress on the floor and called my best friend Mitch. She did what? He said after I explained the situation. Kicked me out. Had her whole family there to watch. And this Chad guy? Personal trainer. Looks like he fell off a fitness magazine. Mitch was quiet for a moment. You know what this is, right? She was planning this before she won. What do you mean? Think about it. She wins the lottery and has a plan ready to go. That doesn't happen overnight. He was right. The suitcases had been packed too neatly. The family had been too prepared. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. So what do? You fight back, but smart. These people think they've got you figured out. The sad, dumped husband who'll just disappear quietly. Maybe I should. Like heck you should. You've got rights, Eli. That ticket was bought with joint funds. The house is in both your names. Don't let them steamroll you. After we hung up, I stared at the cracked ceiling and made a decision. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that the quiet guy they'd underestimated had been paying attention all along. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. Lottery law, asset division, community property. By morning, I had a plan. Vanessa thought $12 million could buy her a new life. She was about to discover it had also bought her a war. 3 days later, I was ready to RSVP to a party I hadn't been invited to. Gina's social media addiction turned out to be my best intelligence source. She'd posted everything. Photos of Vanessa's new downtown condo, videos of Chad helping her move, and most importantly, an invitation to a celebration dinner at the fancy Riverside Grill. The date made my stomach turn. October 15th, the anniversary of my first date with Vanessa. I spent the morning at the courthouse, filing paperwork that would make their celebration a lot less festive. Then I went shopping for the first time in years. A real suit, not the department store specials I usually wore to weddings and funerals. The Riverside Grill was the kind of place that charged $30 for a piece of fish and called it market fresh. I'd taken Vanessa there for our anniversary last year. She'd complained about the prices. Funny how 12 million changes your perspective on expensive fish. I spotted them through the window, Vanessa, Chad, Rhonda, Gina, and Shelley, all crowded around a table covered in champagne glasses and self-satisfaction. Vanessa wore a red dress I'd never seen before, probably cost more than my monthly rent. The hostess tried to stop me at the door. "Sir, do you have a reservation?" "I'm meeting the Turner party," I said, adjusting my tie. "They're expecting me." Not technically true, but not technically false either. I walked through the restaurant like I owned it, carrying a leather folder that made me look official and important. The kind of folder that made people nervous. "Eli?" Vanessa's face went white when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" "Celebrating," I said, pulling up an empty chair from a nearby table. "Mind if I join you?" "Actually, we do mind," Rhonda snapped. "This is a private gathering." "Nothing private about it," I replied, nodding toward Gina's phone, which was already recording. "Besides, I have something that belongs to all of you." I opened the folder and spread papers across the table, right next to the champagne glasses. Legal documents with official seals and intimidating letterheads. "What is this?" Shelley asked, her lawyer instincts kicking in. "Temporary restraining order on all assets acquired through the lottery ticket purchased from our joint account," I said. "Also, a motion for immediate asset review and a request for financial disclosure." The table went silent, except for the clink of champagne glasses being set down. Chad leaned forward. "You can't do that." "Actually, I can, and I did. As of this morning, every penny of that $12 million is frozen until we can determine how much belongs to the community property." "That's ridiculous," Vanessa said, but her voice shook. "The ticket was mine. Bought with our money, from our joint account, while we were married." I pulled out a bank statement. "See this withdrawal? $50 for miscellaneous expenses on the day you bought the winning ticket, from our joint checking account." Shelley grabbed the papers, scanning them quickly. Her face grew darker with each page. "This is harassment," she said finally. "This is marriage law," I corrected. "Something you might want to brush up on before giving legal advice." "You're being vindictive," Rhonda accused. "I'm being thorough." I turned to Vanessa. "Did you really think I'd just disappear? That I'd let you steal half of everything we built together?" "I'm not stealing anything." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a screenshot. "Then explain this text message you sent to Chad yesterday." I read it aloud. "Need to move the money fast before Eli can touch it. Can you help me set up the offshore accounts we talked about?" Vanessa's face went from white to red. "You're spying on me?" "I'm protecting myself. From my wife who's trying to hide assets with her personal trainer." The surrounding tables had started to notice our conversation. Other diners were turning to stare, and Gina's phone wasn't the only one recording anymore. "You want to know the really funny part?" I continued. "I actually came here to try to work things out, to see if we could handle this like adults." "Then why are you doing this?" Vanessa asked. "Because I heard what you told your friends at the coffee shop yesterday." Her face went pale again. "That's right. Jennifer from the water department was there. She heard you laughing about how easy it was going to be to spend your way out of marriage before I could claim anything." "I never said that. Jennifer has a good memory, and she's willing to testify." Shelley was still reading the legal papers, her frown deepening. "These are actually legitimate," she murmured. "Of course they're legitimate. I may not be a lawyer, but I'm not stupid." Chad stood up suddenly. "This is enough. You're ruining dinner." "Sit down, Chad. We're not finished." "I don't take orders from you." "No, but you might want to take advice, like the advice to stay away from other men's wives." "We're separated," he said. "Separated, not divorced, and definitely not when you started sniffing around." The restaurant manager appeared at our table. "Is everything all right here?" "Everything's fine," I said, standing up. "I was just leaving, but first—" I turned back to Vanessa. "You have 48 hours to respond to these motions. After that, this gets a lot more complicated." I walked out of the restaurant feeling better than I had in days. Behind me, I could hear Rhonda's voice rising in anger, and Gina's excited chatter as she narrated the drama for her phone. In the parking lot, I spotted Chad's white Tesla, his pride and joy based on the way he'd been posting photos of it online. The car was parked across 2 spaces, because of course it was. I looked around. No security cameras pointed this direction. No witnesses. I opened the bottle of red wine I'd bought for the occasion, a nice Cabernet that Vanessa used to like. Then I accidentally tripped, sending the entire bottle splashing across the Tesla's pristine white hood. "Oops," I said to nobody in particular, but I wasn't done. I pulled out my keys and carefully carved a message into the wine-stained paint. "Upgrade this." By the time I got back to my apartment, I was grinning for the first time in a week. Round 1 was over, and I was still standing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You just made a big mistake. This isn't over." I texted back, "You're right. It's just getting started." They thought they could buy me out with $12 million. They were about to learn that some things weren't for sale. I should have seen the counterattack coming. 2 days after the restaurant incident, my phone started ringing at 6 in the morning. Local news stations, online bloggers, even a tabloid reporter from the city paper. They all wanted to talk to me about the lottery lawsuit. "Mr. Turner, is it true you're trying to steal your wife's winnings? How do you feel about being called a gold digger? Any comment on the abuse allegations?" Abuse allegations. That was new. I hung up on all of them and turned on the local news. There was Vanessa, looking fragile and victimized, standing next to Shelley outside the courthouse. "My husband has become increasingly aggressive since I won the lottery," she was saying. "I'm afraid of what he might do next." The reporter, a sharp-faced woman in a power suit, nodded sympathetically. "And there are text messages?" "Yes, threatening messages. My lawyer has advised me to seek a protective order." Threatening messages. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through every text I'd sent Vanessa since the separation. Nothing even close to threatening. Then I remembered. The text I'd sent after keying Chad's car. "You're right. It's just getting started." Taken out of context, it sounded ominous. My phone rang again. This time it was my boss, Dave Mitchell. "Eli, we need to talk." "Let me guess. You saw the news." The city doesn't like controversy, especially when it involves our employees harassing their spouses. "I'm not harassing anyone. I'm protecting my legal rights." "That may be true, but perception matters. I'm putting you on administrative leave until this gets sorted out." Administrative leave. Paid, but still a professional embarrassment. And another victory for Vanessa's team. I drove to Murphy's Bar, the kind of place where the beer was cold and nobody cared about your problems. Mitch was already there, nursing a whiskey. "Saw the news," he said as I sat down. "They really did a number on you." "It's just getting started," I replied, then winced. Those words were going to haunt me. "What's your next move?" Before I could answer, I heard familiar voices from the booth behind us. 2 women from my neighborhood, Janet and Carol, were having their weekly gossip session. "I always thought there was something off about him," Janet was saying. "Too quiet, you know. The quiet ones are always the worst." "And did you see how he dressed?" "Like he was trying too hard," Carol replied. "Vanessa's better off without him. I heard he only married her for the money. Everyone in the neighborhood knew she had family money." Family money. Rhonda worked at a department store and Vanessa's dad sold insurance. But apparently, the story was growing in the telling. "He probably planned the whole thing," Janet continued. "Married her, waited for her to win the lottery, then tried to take half." I started to turn around, but Mitch grabbed my arm. "Don't. It'll just make things worse." He was right. But listening to my neighbors tear apart my character was like swallowing glass. "I need to fight back," I said. Carefully. "They're playing dirty, but they're also making mistakes." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. Vanessa claims she's afraid of you, but she was perfectly comfortable confronting you at the restaurant, with witnesses. He had a point. Fear doesn't usually come with an audience. Plus, this whole media blitz happened awfully fast, like they had it planned. So what do I do? Set a trap. Let them think they're winning, then catch them in a lie. I spent the rest of the day planning. If Vanessa wanted to play the victim, I'd give her a chance to prove it. That evening, I called her. Eli, you shouldn't be calling me. I know, I just wanted to apologize. Silence on the other end. I've been thinking about what you said, about being afraid. I never meant to scare you. I appreciate that. Could we meet? Just to talk? I promise I'll be calm. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, Vanessa. I just want to understand what went wrong. Maybe we can work something out without lawyers. Another pause. Where? Murphy's Bar, tomorrow night at 8. It's public, so you'll be safe. I'll think about it. She hung up, but I knew she'd come. Vanessa never could resist the chance to have the last word. The next night, I arrived at Murphy's early and set up in a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. I had my phone ready to record, hidden but functional. Vanessa arrived at 8:15, dressed down in jeans and a sweater. She looked around nervously before spotting me. "Thank you for coming," I said as she sat down. "This is a mistake." "Maybe, but I needed to see you." We talked for 20 minutes about nothing important: the weather, her new condo, my temporary living situation. I played the part of the defeated husband, apologetic and resigned. Then Shelley walked in. "There you are," she said, sliding into the booth next to Vanessa. "I was worried when you didn't answer your phone." Interesting. Vanessa hadn't mentioned bringing backup. Shelley thought I shouldn't come alone, Vanessa explained. Smart thinking, I agreed. Can't be too careful around dangerous guys like me. Shelley's eyes narrowed. "This isn't a joke, Eli." "You're right. It's a performance." "What?" "The scared wife act, the protective friend, the convenient timing." I leaned back in the booth. "Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Vanessa said. "Sure you do. You're not afraid of me, Vanessa. You're afraid of losing money." "That's not true." "Then why did you agree to meet me here? Alone, at night, in a bar? If you were really scared, you'd have insisted on meeting somewhere public, during the day with security." Shelley started to stand up. "We're leaving." "Sit down. We're just getting to the good part. You can't make us stay." "No, but I can play this recording for the court." Both women froze. "Recording?" Vanessa asked. "The whole conversation, including the part where you admitted you're not really afraid of me, and the part where Shelley coached you on what to say. We never—" "Remember, stick to the story about feeling threatened," I quoted. "And don't let him make you feel guilty." Shelley's face went white. "You're bluffing." I pulled out my phone and hit play. Their voices filled the booth, clear and damning. "This is illegal," Shelley hissed. "Actually, it's not. Single-party consent state. I can record any conversation I'm part of." "You bastard." "Careful. That's the kind of language that might make someone feel threatened." Vanessa was staring at the table, her confidence crumbling. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to withdraw the protective order request. You're going to stop talking to reporters. And you're going to negotiate a fair settlement." "Or what?" Shelley challenged. "Or this recording goes public, along with some other interesting evidence I've been collecting." "What evidence?" I smiled. That would spoil the surprise. They left without another word, but I could see the fear in their eyes. Real fear this time, not the manufactured kind. The next morning, the protective order request was quietly withdrawn. The media suddenly lost interest in the story, and my phone stopped ringing with interview requests. Round 2 was mine, but I knew they weren't done fighting. Neither was I. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and broken dreams. I sat at a scarred wooden table, watching Vanessa's legal team prepare for battle. Shelley had brought reinforcements, 2 associates and a paralegal who looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. My lawyer, Tom Bradley, was a public defender who owed me a favor from when I'd fixed his home plumbing for free. Not exactly a powerhouse, but he knew the law and he was cheap. "Remember," Tom whispered, "let them talk first. They have to prove their case." Judge Patricia Hendricks entered the courtroom like a force of nature. 60 years old, gray-haired, and famous for not tolerating nonsense from either side. "This is a motion for emergency asset protection," she began, reading from the file. "Mrs. Turner claims the lottery winnings are separate property, while Mr. Turner claims community property rights. Mrs. Turner, you may begin." Shelley stood up, her designer suit immaculate. "Your Honor, this is a clear case of opportunistic litigation. Mrs. Turner purchased the winning lottery ticket with her own funds from her individual account prior to any discussion of separation. She presented bank records showing a withdrawal from Vanessa's personal account on the day the ticket was purchased. Furthermore," Shelley continued, "Mr. Turner has engaged in a pattern of harassment and intimidation designed to coerce my client into an unfavorable settlement." "What evidence do you have of harassment?" Judge Hendricks asked. "Text messages, Your Honor. Threatening language sent after my client attempted to establish boundaries." Shelley read my text message aloud. "You're right. It's just getting started." In the sterile courtroom environment, it sounded sinister. "Additionally, Mr. Turner has engaged in stalking behavior, including following my client to restaurants and recording private conversations without consent." "The restaurant was a public establishment," Tom objected. "Sustained," the judge said. "Continue, Ms. Walsh." "Your Honor, my client is seeking protection from a man who married her under false pretenses and is now attempting to claim assets he has no legal right to." False pretenses. That was a new accusation. "Mr. Bradley?" Judge Hendricks turned to my lawyer. Tom stood up, shuffling his papers. "Your Honor, this is a straightforward community property case. The lottery ticket was purchased during the marriage with funds from a joint account for the benefit of the marital community. He presented our bank records, showing the $50 withdrawal from our joint checking account. Furthermore, Mrs. Turner's claims of harassment are contradicted by her own behavior. She willingly met with my client at a public establishment and engaged in voluntary conversation." Tom played a portion of the recording from Murphy's bar, focusing on Vanessa's calm demeanor and willingness to negotiate. As for the alleged threats, the text message in question was sent in response to Mrs. Turner's own message stating, "This isn't over." My client was merely agreeing with her assessment. "Do you have Mrs. Turner's original message?" the judge asked. Tom looked confused. "I'm sorry, Your Honor?" "The message Mr. Turner was responding to. Do you have a copy?" I leaned over and whispered to Tom. He nodded and stood back up. "Your Honor, we were not provided with Mrs. Turner's original message, only my client's response." Judge Hendricks turned to Shelley. "Ms. Walsh, please provide the complete text conversation." "Your Honor, I don't see how that's relevant." "It's relevant because context matters. Provide the complete conversation or I'll disregard this evidence entirely." Shelley's face flushed. "We don't have the complete conversation, Your Honor." "Why not?" "Mrs. Turner's phone was damaged." "How convenient." The judge made a note. "Continue, Mr. Bradley." Tom gained confidence. "Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence that Mrs. Turner has been attempting to hide assets and manipulate the legal process." He played another section of the Murphy's bar recording where Vanessa and Shelley discussed sticking to the story. This recording demonstrates that Mrs. Turner's claims of fear and harassment are fabricated for litigation purposes. Shelley jumped up. "Objection. That recording was obtained through deception." "In a public place, with single-party consent," Tom replied. "Perfectly legal." "Overruled," Judge Hendricks said. "The recording stands." But I had one more surprise. I leaned over and whispered to Tom, who smiled and stood up again. "Your Honor, we'd like to present one additional piece of evidence." Tom pulled out a document I'd found in our old files, while packing my belongings. This is a prenuptial agreement signed by both parties prior to marriage. The courtroom went silent. Vanessa's face went white. I'm sorry, Shelley said. There's no prenuptial agreement in our files. Because your client didn't disclose it, Tom replied. Page 3, Section 7 clearly states that any lottery winnings during the marriage are to be split equally between both parties. I watched Vanessa's composure crumble. She'd forgotten about the prenup. We'd signed it at her mother's insistence to protect her family assets. Rhonda had insisted on the lottery clause, joking that if we ever won big, we'd split it fairly. Funny how that joke wasn't so funny anymore. Judge Hendricks examined the document carefully. This appears to be properly executed and notarized. Ms. Walsh, did your client inform you of this agreement? Shelley looked like she'd been slapped. No, Your Honor. We were not aware of any prenuptial agreement. Then you've been operating under false assumptions. Mr. Bradley, this changes the entire nature of the case. Yes, Your Honor. We're no longer seeking community property rights. We're seeking enforcement of a valid prenuptial agreement. Mrs. Turner, the judge addressed Vanessa directly. Did you sign this document? Vanessa looked at Shelley desperately, but there was nowhere to hide. Yes, Your Honor. And you were represented by counsel when you signed it? Yes. Then, the agreement is binding. Mrs. Turner, you are hereby ordered to deposit half of the lottery winnings into an escrow account pending final divorce proceedings. The gavel came down like thunder. Outside the courthouse, I found Chad waiting by his car, now sporting a fresh paint job to cover my artistic contribution. Congratulations, he said sarcastically. You won. Thanks. Nice car, by the way. I like the new paint. His jaw tightened. You think you're clever. I think I'm thorough. This isn't over. You know, people keep saying that, but from where I'm standing, it looks pretty finished. Chad stepped closer. Vanessa's going to appeal. She's got lawyers you can't even afford to look at. Maybe, but she's also got a binding prenup and a recorded confession of fraud. Good luck with that appeal. I walked away, leaving him standing in the courthouse parking lot. But as I reached my truck, I heard him making a phone call. It didn't work. We need to try something else. Something else. I had a feeling this victory was just intermission in a longer show. But for now, I was winning, and that felt pretty good. The gym where Chad worked was called Elite Fitness, which was the first lie. The equipment was decent, but the clientele was mostly middle-aged suburbanites trying to recapture their youth through expensive workout clothes and protein shakes. I'd been watching Chad's routine for 3 days. He arrived at 6 in the morning, worked with private clients until noon, then spent the afternoon posting workout videos for his social media followers. The man documented every bicep curl like he was creating art. What he didn't know was that I'd been documenting him too. My phone buzzed with a text from Mitch. You sure about this? I texted back, trust me. The plan was simple. Chad had been posting photos of his natural physique transformation over the past year, but I'd noticed something in the background of his gym selfies, a small medical waste container that definitely didn't belong in a regular fitness center. A little research revealed that Elite Fitness had been investigated 6 months ago for allowing unlicensed nutritional consultants to operate on their premises. The investigation had been dropped due to lack of evidence, but I had a feeling Chad knew more about those consultants than he'd admitted. I waited until Chad started his afternoon routine, a live-streamed workout session for his followers. He was in full performance mode, flexing for the camera and talking about natural gains through dedication. That's when I walked in. Excuse me, I said loudly enough for his phone to pick up the audio. Are you Chad Royce? He looked annoyed at the interruption. Yeah, I'm in the middle of something here. Sorry, but I think you dropped this outside. I held up a small glass vial with a medical label. Chad's face went pale. I don't know what that is. Really? Because it has your name on the prescription label. Testosterone cypionate. That's a steroid, right? The gym went quiet. Other members stopped their workouts to stare. Chad's live stream was still running, broadcasting everything to his followers. "Turn that off," Chad hissed, reaching for his phone. "Why? I thought you were all about natural fitness." "You're harassing me." "I'm returning your property. Unless you're saying this isn't yours?" Chad was trapped. If he claimed the vial, he'd admit to steroid use. If he denied it, he'd look like a liar when I showed the prescription label with his name on it. "Where did you get that?" he demanded. "Your car. You left it on the dashboard, in direct sunlight. That's not safe storage for medication." Of course, I hadn't found it in his car. I'd gotten it from a contact who worked at the pharmacy where Chad filled his prescriptions. But Chad didn't know that. "You broke into my car?" "Your window was down. I was just being a good citizen." The gym manager appeared at my shoulder. "Is there a problem here?" "No problem," I said cheerfully. "Just returning Mr. Royce's medication. Though you might want to check your policies about performance-enhancing substances. I think your insurance company would be interested to know what's really going on here." Chad lunged for me, but I stepped aside. He crashed into a weight rack, sending dumbbells clattering across the floor. "You son of a—" "Careful," I said. "You're still live streaming." Chad grabbed his phone and ended the stream, but it was too late. The damage was done. Within hours, the video was everywhere. Chad's sponsors started dropping him one by one. His fitness influencer career was over, but I wasn't finished. That evening, I drove to Vanessa's new condo. The building had a parking garage with minimal security, the kind of place where someone could work undisturbed if they knew what they were doing. I found Chad's Tesla in its usual spot and got to work. First, I removed the valve stems from all 4 tires. Not slashing. That would be vandalism. Just a simple removal that would leave him stranded, but cause no permanent damage. Then came the fun part. I had 2 bags of craft store glitter, the finest grade available, guaranteed to stick to everything and impossible to remove completely. I poured it through the slightly open sunroof, making sure to coat the seats, dashboard, and floor mats. Finally, I placed a bag of frozen shrimp under the driver's seat. In a few days, when the Texas heat got to it, Chad would have a very unpleasant surprise. I was walking back to my truck when I heard voices from the stairwell. Chad and someone else coming down from Vanessa's floor. "Can't let him keep doing this," Chad was saying. "I know, but what choice do we have?" The other voice was female, but not Vanessa. Sharper, more professional. Shelley. I ducked behind a concrete pillar and listened. "The prenup changes everything," Shelley continued. "Even if we appeal, Vanessa's going to lose half the money." "So we make him disappear," Chad said. My heart stopped. Then I realized he didn't mean it literally. "How?" Shelley asked. "There are ways, accidents, scandals, things that would make him want to leave town and never come back." "That's dangerous territory, Chad." "More dangerous than losing $6 million? $6 million? Half of Vanessa's winnings. That's what this was really about." "I have another idea," Shelley said. "What if Eli had an affair? Something public, embarrassing. Vanessa could claim adultery, break the prenup." "With who?" "The guy's a loser." "We'd arrange it, set him up with someone, get photos, make it look real." "That could work." They were planning to frame me for adultery. The irony was incredible. I waited until they left, then followed Chad back to his car. I wanted to see his reaction to my handiwork. He didn't disappoint. The moment he opened the driver's door, glitter exploded everywhere. It stuck to his clothes, his hair, his skin. He looked like a defeated disco ball. "What the?" he screamed, then caught himself. Other residents were watching from their balconies, some recording with their phones. I started my truck and drove slowly past him as he stood there, covered in glitter and rage. "Having car trouble?" I called out the window. His response was creative but unprintable. The next morning, I called Vanessa. We need to talk, I said. Eli, I can't. Shelley says. Shelley's planning to frame me for adultery. Silence. I have recordings, Vanessa, of her and Chad planning to set me up with fake evidence. That's impossible. Is it? Think about everything they've done so far. The media campaign, the fake harassment claims. Did you really think they'd stop at fraud? Another long pause. Where do you want to meet? Your place. 1 hour. Come alone. I can't. Yes, you can. Unless you want those recordings to go public. She hung up, but I knew she'd be there. Vanessa was many things, but she wasn't stupid. She could see which way the wind was blowing. 1 hour later, I stood outside her condo door, ready for the final confrontation. It was time to end this. Vanessa's condo was everything our old house wasn't: sleek, modern, and completely without personality. She opened the door wearing sweatpants and a haunted expression. You look terrible, I said. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. She led me into a living room that looked like a furniture showroom. Everything matched. Nothing felt lived in. Nice place. Very sterile. What do you want, Eli? I pulled out my phone and played the recording from the parking garage. Chad and Shelley's voices filled the room, discussing their plan to frame me for adultery. Vanessa's face crumpled as she listened. I didn't know, she whispered. Didn't you? Or did you just not want to know? I never asked them to do any of this. But you didn't stop them either. She sank onto the couch, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I was scared. Of what? Me? Of being poor again. Of going back to the way things were. The way things were wasn't that bad, Vanessa. For you, maybe. You were content with that little house, that boring life. But I wanted more. So you decided to steal it. It wasn't stealing. The money was mine. The prenup says otherwise. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, what do you want? I want you to call off your attack dogs. Tell Chad and Shelley to back down. And if I do? We settle this like adults, split the money according to the prenup, divide our assets, and go our separate ways. That's it? That's it. No more games, no more schemes, just a clean divorce. She looked around her expensive condo, probably calculating how much of it she'd have to give up. I'll think about it, she said finally. You've got 24 hours. I was halfway to the door when she spoke again. Eli? Did you really key Chad's car? I turned back to her. What do you think? I think you're not the same person I married. Neither are you. I left her sitting in her perfect empty condo and drove home to my studio apartment. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But the feeling didn't last long. The next morning, I woke up to pounding on my door. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers. Mr. Turner, we need to speak with you about a break-in. My stomach dropped. What break-in? Your wife's condo was burglarized last night. She says you threatened her yesterday. Of course she did. I let the officers in and answered their questions. Yes, I'd visited Vanessa yesterday. No, I hadn't threatened her. Yes, I could prove where I'd been all night. Murphy's Bar, where I'd played pool with Mitch until closing time. We'll need to verify that, one officer said. Feel free. Talk to Mitch Peterson. Talk to the bartender. Check the security cameras. After they left, I called Tom Bradley. They're trying to frame me for burglary now, I told him. What was stolen? That's the interesting part. According to the police report, nothing valuable was taken. Just some papers from her desk. What kind of papers? Good question. I had a feeling I knew what papers were missing. The kind that might implicate Shelley and Chad in their various schemes. That afternoon, Mitch called me. You need to see this, he said. Turn on Channel 7. I flipped on my television to see a breaking news report. The headline read, Lottery winner's condo ransacked by estranged husband. The reporter was standing outside Vanessa's building talking to Chad. She's terrified, he was saying. This guy has been stalking her for weeks. Now he's broken into her home. What do you think he was looking for? The reporter asked. Money, probably. Or evidence he could use against her in court. Evidence. That was rich, coming from him. My phone rang. Tom Bradley. Eli, we have a problem. The DA is considering charges. Based on what? I have an alibi. Based on a pattern of harassment. The restaurant incident, the recording, now this break-in. I didn't break in anywhere. I believe you. But the optics are bad. The optics. Everything came down to how things looked, not how they actually were. What do you recommend? Lay low. Don't contact Vanessa or anyone in her circle. Let me handle this. I hung up and stared at the television, where Chad was still talking about what a dangerous person I was. That's when I decided to stop playing defense. If they wanted to paint me as the villain, I'd give them a villain they'd never forget. I spent the rest of the day planning. By evening, I had everything I needed. The next night was Friday, which meant Chad would be at Elite Fitness until late, training his remaining clients. Vanessa would be home alone in her condo. I parked across the street and waited. At 10 o'clock, Chad's Tesla pulled into the garage. At 10:15, lights came on in Vanessa's condo. At 10:30, Shelley's car arrived. Perfect. All the players were in position for the final act. I walked into the building like I belonged there, took the elevator to Vanessa's floor, and knocked on her door. Eli? She looked surprised to see me. You shouldn't be here. We need to finish this. I told you I'd think about it. Time's up. I pushed past her into the condo where Chad and Shelley were waiting in the living room. They looked like they'd been expecting me. This is a setup, I realized. Smart man, Chad said. Too bad you're not smart enough to stay away. We gave you a chance to disappear quietly, Shelley added. You should have taken it. Let me guess, you're recording this conversation, going to claim I threatened you. Something like that, Chad smiled. Interesting plan, just one problem. What's that? I pulled out my own phone, which had been recording since I entered the building. I've been recording too, including the part where you admitted this is a setup. Their faces fell. Plus, I have something else you might find interesting. I pulled out a manila envelope and dumped its contents on the coffee table. Bank statements, text messages, photos, and legal documents scattered across the surface. What is this? Vanessa asked. Evidence of everything they've been doing behind your back. I pointed to the bank statements. These show Shelley transferring money from your account to her personal account. $20,000 so far. Shelley went white. That's for legal fees. At $400 an hour, that's 50 hours of work for a simple divorce case. Seems excessive. I picked up a printed text conversation. These are messages between Chad and Shelley, discussing how to manage you after the divorce is final. Vanessa grabbed the papers, reading quickly. Her face grew darker with each page. The widow won't know what hit her, she read aloud. By the time we're done, she'll be lucky to have $500,000 left. Vanessa, I can explain, Chad started. Explain what? How you've been planning to steal my money? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Chad looked at Shelley desperately, but she was studying her fingernails like they held the secrets of the universe. You were never supposed to see those, Chad said finally, but I did see them. Thanks to my husband. My husband. The first time she'd called me that in weeks. Vanessa, don't let him manipulate you, Shelley said. He's just trying to turn us against each other. Is he? Because it looks like you two were already against me. I gathered up the papers and put them back in the envelope. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Shelley is going to return every penny she stole from Vanessa. Chad is going to disappear and never contact either of us again. And Vanessa and I are going to settle our divorce according to the prenup, like civilized adults. And if we don't? Chad asked. Then these documents go to the police, the Bar Association, and every news outlet in the city. Your choice. Chad looked like he wanted to hit me. Instead, he grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. This isn't over, he said. Yes, I replied. It is. After he left, Shelley tried one last desperate play. Vanessa, you can't trust him. He's been manipulating this whole situation. Has he? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like he's the only one who's been honest with me. Shelley left without another word. Vanessa and I sat in silence for a long moment. I'm sorry, she said finally. For which part? All of it. The lottery changed me, made me think I deserved more than what we had. Maybe you did deserve more, but not like this. What happens now? Now we split the money, sign the papers, and move on with our lives. Just like that? Just like that. She smiled sadly. You know, if I hadn't won that lottery, we might have made it. Maybe, but we'll never know. I stood up to leave. Eli? Yeah? For what it's worth, I'm glad you fought back. The old you would have just walked away. The old me didn't know what he was worth. I walked out of her condo and into the night air, feeling lighter than I had in months. 6 weeks later, the divorce was final. I got my half of the lottery money, plus the house. Vanessa kept her condo and her expensive furniture. Chad moved to another state after his steroid scandal destroyed his fitness career. Shelley was disbarred for misappropriating client funds. And me? I bought a small house in the mountains and started my own consulting business. Turns out, there's good money in helping people solve problems. The lottery ticket that started it all is framed on my wall now. Not because I'm proud of winning, but because it reminds me of something important. Sometimes the biggest jackpot isn't the money you win. It's discovering what you're really worth.